channel. Thank you for taking the time. Let's go over Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 2. Let's just get right into the scene-by-scene stuff first. I do have plenty of thoughts on this episode. It was kind of a boring episode in my opinion, but let's just get into it. So the episode opens up with Monica and Tate and their car accident that happened at the end of the season opener. This wasn't that bad of a scene, to be honest with you. The issue I had with it was a little bit of the logistics of it. So we see Tate, he's in the car, he's struggling to get out, he's in a lot of pain, and he tries to use one of his arms, and we see that his arm is broken. And then he gets out of the car, he sees the dead buffalo in the middle of the road, then he sees the other driver who appears to be dead in the field opposite them. And then he comes back across the road again, and he finds Monica, and she's in a field. Now, it was a pretty, scary looking sight. The guts are all over the road from the buffalo. Monica's all busted up. And she tells him not to come to her, just get on the phone and call the cops. The only thing that I had a question of is, how did she get in that field? Did she go through the windshield? Is that what we're meant to believe? So it was really weird, because where she was, it didn't seem like she should have been there. She was really, really far away. And if she went through a windshield, I mean, that's pretty gruesome. So I don't know. It just seemed a little bit weird, but otherwise it wasn't that bad of a scene. So then after the credits roll, we cut back to Tate and Casey. They have a scene at their house. Some time has obviously passed. And Tate has his cast on, and they're talking, and Tate seems to be okay, and he actually encourages Casey to try to have another. He encourages them both. His parents he wants them to have another go at a baby, because he said he really wanted a brother. He liked having a brother, is what he said. So it was pretty good. Like I said, I think this actor is starting to come into his own a little bit. He's doing good so far. Kid actors are always 50-50 with me. You can get like a Dakota Fanning that's just killing it, as a child actor, or you can get like a million of the other actors out there who are really young, and they're cast as such an annoying brat all the time. So it's nice to see him have some some acting chops. So it's good. All right, so then we get back to the ranch, and this scene was kind of funny. So Rip is asking Carter to saddle up John's horse, because he wants to keep John's horse. He wants to keep the horse's legs fresh. And it's funny because Carter wasn't expecting that. He didn't know that he was going on this ride, and the pressure of him being put on the spot, he just starts like bumbling and stumbling. He doesn't know what to do. And the thing that the thing that I thought was funny was Carter's part of it. But Rip just starts cussing at him, and I don't know what it is. It always kind of makes me a little uncomfortable, because Rip is Rip, and I like Rip as a character. But when he's just like barking at Carter, a child, and he did this when Carter was he looked much younger, I should say, because Jesus, he's tall as hell now. But it just sort of, I don't know, it's a little off-putting. He's always like calling him, he's like, hurry the fuck up and all this shit. So it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's a little off-putting for me. But anyways, I thought it was a good scene for Carter, and Rip just bails out and tells Lloyd to help Carter. And it was good to see Carter, have some screen time, because at the season opener, he had like 2 minutes with John, and he really didn't do much. So then we cut to John. He's at the office. He's getting briefed by his assistant and all of the commitments that he has lined up. So one of the things that she talks about is this education initiative for this technical school. And it kind of bothers John when she starts explaining what it is. So then he says, "Who's my chief of staff?" She says, "It's so-and-so, somebody we don't give a shit about." He calls him in there, and then he introduces him to Beth. And then he says, "She's my new chief of staff. You're fired. Get the fuck out." It was a very John scene. It was supposed to, I don't know. I think some of this stuff is getting a little cliche, but it was okay. It wasn't that bad. And then, it was kind of a good scene after that, because you have Linnell in the back sort of trying to coach John along, because she's been in this political game for a long time, and she's very wise, and she understands the game. And she's trying to encourage John without going at him with the horns down, because John will just, he'll just be a dick about it. And she doesn't want to do that. She really wants him to succeed. She wants to help him. The part that I thought sucked was, so John orders Jamie to cancel the lease for the airport. And Jamie responds and he explains, in a very briefly, like, hey, this is going to be a problem. You're going to get sued. Like, they're going to sue you personally. And the ramifications could be a big deal. Well, he's not wrong, and it just, John's being John, which is fine. But then Beth comes in and she just throws out this one line of, oh, isn't it an agricultural zone? And it was almost like a surprise to everybody in the room except Jamie. I know Jamie was the one who gave the green light. I believe it was in the beginning of season 1. I'm sorry, season 3. I understand that seed was sort of planted, but it really doesn't matter. Like, she just comes in, says this one thing, and then it's like, oh my God, we can't do this. And, this is it. This was the information, the key to stopping this was right there. And it just felt like another thing for Beth to come in and save the day. But regardless, she says some jargon. Jamie and her kind of go back and forth a little bit, but then Jamie just turns dumb again. Like, they can't have him be intelligent too long, and he starts asking to have a conversation with John alone. And then Beth butts in and starts cussing at him and tells him, just do your fucking job. And she has another cool line, and it just didn't really work for me. So he tells Jamie that he wants the lease cancel, the paperwork or whatever. He wants it on his desk in an hour. So then Beth says, we're going to do this. She barks out her whole strategy, and then she gets to storm off and be all cool. And then when they leave, Linnell stays back and talks to John. And this is why I really like this character, because she is not taking his shit, but she's also not trying to bully him. She's not trying to better the guy, but she's genuinely trying to help him succeed. And I really like her. She's just a good character. And they have good chemistry, the actress with Kevin Costner. And so then we move along. Oh my God. So this scene is just another Beth being awesome scene. This whole thing was a fucking just cliche cringe fest. I fucking couldn't get over it. It's just literally 2-3 minutes of just Beth berating Jamie. That's all she does. She teaches him how to slam a door. She threatens to have him locked up in prison. And after the end of it all, after she, says all the shit to him, then she's like, makes him say, yes, ma'am, and it just, none of it fucking worked. I thought it was awful. And it just sucks because Beth could be such a great character, but she just isn't. She's not a strong character. She has no nuance. She has no characteristics about her. She's just a one-note character. She does one thing only, and that's it. I mean, there's just nothing. There's nothing she can't overcome. There's nothing that scares her. Nothing bothers her. It's just her kicking ass and taking names nonstop. And so she's a boring character. And then on top of that, the thing that bothers me that I don't talk about too much, but I just got to say, Hollywood has spent years pounding it into the masses that toxic masculinity is just this terrible thing. And, they're like course correcting, but really overcorrecting. And now every woman has to be just the baddest of bad. They write Beth to act like a guy. And the thing is to what I can see, in my opinion, Beth is what Hollywood has labeled as toxic masculinity. She is toxic masculinity encapsulated. And I fucking hate that whole term. I think it's stupid as fuck. There's masculinity, there's feminism, that's it. There's this whole toxic bullshit. That's just a Hollywood thing. And a lot of corporations have run with it, and a lot of politicians have run with it. It doesn't jive with me. I don't fucking like it at all. But using those words against them, I don't have any problem doing, because this is exactly what they said was toxic. Everything they said was toxic about males is what Beth does. And because it's a woman, it's empowering and it's cool, and she's a boss bitch and all this stuff. And it's lame. If Beth's character was a man, let's just say this was before Me Too, this is before 2016 election, let's just say this is 2010. If Beth's character was male and acted the same way, he would still be a fucking douchebag. She treats everyone like shit. She has no nuance to her whatsoever. She's very boring in one note. If a guy was doing all the same things back then, it would still be like, this guy sucks. What a douche. I don't like this guy. He's a clown. I can't wait till he gets killed, or I can't wait till he gets written off the show, or something like that. But because it's Beth Dutton and it's a female, it's fucking cool. And I just, it doesn't work for me. I don't think it's empowering. And, you know, a lot of that word gets thrown around too. It's like, oh, it's women empowerment and all this shit. Listen, I watch these shows with Normie Wife, and Normie Wife can't fucking stand her. Every time Beth's on the screen, Normie Wife is letting out audible sighs. She's like, oh boy, this is so annoying. And we've had conversations about this, and she said, like, this isn't empowering. This is not women empowerment. It's annoying. She's a dickhead. So I know that's just how I feel about it. Her character is just boring as fuck. And to see Jamie back into the fold right next to her on a regular basis, this is all we're going to get. Like the rest of the season, as long as Jamie is in the camp in the Dutton camp and close to Beth, this is it. This is the extent of their relationship. And so every scene, I mean, it got really bad last season. It started in season 2, but season 3 was just, season 4. Season 4, they really just hammered this shit home, and here we are. It's the same scene, and we've seen this scene, 5-6 times already. It's just old. It's boring. It's just the same old shit. So, all right, so let's move along here. So we get back to Casey and Monica. They're at their home. They're on the porch, and Monica tells Casey that they need to have a burial for their late son, and she wants to have, which surprised me, she wants to have the burial on the Yellowstone Ranch. I was actually kind of surprised by that. She's always had beef with the ranch. She hated Casey. She said as much, just for them moving back to the ranch and all these things. Now, she had good reason. I'm not saying she was wrong. I'm just saying I was surprised that she actually wanted to bury their late son there. And then she asks about Casey's vision and the end of them, because that's what Casey said, what he saw. I'm sorry, but the end of season 4, Casey's spiritual journey, the bullshit scene that he was in, all that was like the worst part of the episode of the season finale for me. That whole thing was just stupid and lame, and it added nothing to the show. I just didn't like it. But he says that the end of them will be a choice that he has to make, and he'll never make that choice because he will always choose them. Okay. I guess that's deep or whatever. And then he does talk to her and say that, you know, he spoke with Tate. Tate wants them to try again. He wants to have a little brother. And she says, I wanted him to have one too. And then she sits on his lap, and she has an emotional, like a real cry and everything. And it's sad. Like it really is, you know, like I said, the scene of how the accident went down is dumb as shit, but this is like real. Like this feels pretty raw, and I feel really bad for Monica. It just sucks, and Casey too. But you know, obviously, being the mother who was carrying the child, you know, that's got to be awful. And I just don't even want to try to imagine. So it does that one. I think it's good. This storyline is actually pretty good. So then we get back to the Yellowstone, and the ranchers are out they're out in the fields or the pastures or whatever, and they come across this mutilated cow. And so Rip and Lloyd immediately say, they got wolf problems and we got to get this fixed. And Ryan jumps off his horse and he gets close to it, and he starts kind of looking at tracks and everything, and he says that he doesn't think that wolves killed the cow. And Lloyd and Rip are both like, what are you talking about? This is exactly what cows do. And Ryan is like, no, I'm saying wolves ate the cow, but I don't think they killed the cow. They didn't really, he didn't expound on that. So I'm curious as to where that's going. I think I kind of have an idea. We'll get into that in a second. But I thought it was pretty interesting or whatever. And then Rip just tells him he wants to hunt down the wolves. They have a taste for beef. We need to fix this problem. Ryan suggests contacting Casey to do some legal shit and do it legal and get some state hunters out there. And Rip is like, no fucking way. You know, it's 3 days into John's governorship. We can't have these guys on our land. This is going to look bad. So, you know, it makes sense. But yeah, he's not having that. So he wants them to take care of it. So then we cut to the airport, and we get Sarah Atwood, her like opening scene or her intro scene. She's arriving on a private jet. Cool. Not bad. And then we cut over to Rainwater, and he's at his casino, and he's walking with Mo. And then he runs into uh, Angela, Fembot, and she's just so robotic. And so she asks, you know, are you going to watch the press conference? And he says, I'm on my way right now. So she's like, oh, we will join you. And it's just, she's so weird. Like her eyes and everything. I don't know. Weird character. So then we cut back to Sarah Atwood. Okay. This scene was fucking cringe. I just don't understand the writing techniques of this crew. I just don't get it. So she's walking in the, now she's at the building or whatever. I forgot the name of the company, Schwarzenmeyer, whatever, it doesn't matter. So she's at the office heading into the boardroom to talk to Caroline and Ellis, and she's being escorted by this guy, some white guy, right? He's in a suit and everything, younger, and she's walking in front of him. And they do this thing that I can't stand that Hollywood does, where someone in front just senses that something's going on behind them, and then their spidey senses just lets them know what's going on. So she kind of glances to like one side for a second, and then she stops, and then she lays into this guy for checking her out because he's checking her out as she's walking. She's a very beautiful woman, you know, and it's just so stupid. She just basically punks him out, and like she says that he's not, you know, if you're gonna do it, be man enough to stare. And then she's saying that like getting all in his face, and he like looks down at the ground like a stupid little boy, and then she's like, oh, you're not there yet. It is dumb, so stupid, but it's so powerful. So then she meets Jackie and Ellis in the conference room. All right, so then we cut back to John, and he is holding the press conference to announce the executive order to halt all the funding to the airport. He gives another good speech. Like I said, whoever's writing those lines for the speeches are pretty damn good, because he gives a speech about freedom before he announces what he's there for. And I thought it was good. And then we cut real quick to, we see Angela and we see Rainwater, and she says another cheesy ass line. And it's something like, we're right back where we started, and we're right back where we started, or some shit like that. The thing that bothers me is Rainwater is like a stump. He does nothing. He just looks at her, and it's like she's punking him out. And it's like, dude, you're the head of your tribe. Like, what are you doing? His character took such a back seat in season 4. Just completely, he had so little to do in that season. I'm wanting them to do more with Rainwater because I like his character. I really liked season 1 Rainwater, where him and John were at odds. It made total sense. You got the 5th generation rancher white guy going against the, you know, the Native American, the Indian, you know, that's defending his land and his tribe. That made for a really great dynamic. And then you had the third party of the corporate America trying to invade on both of their lands that they're both fighting over. I think that was a really good setting for this whole show, and I kind of was hoping it would kind of, obviously, you know, alliances would shift and, you know, enemies would become friends and vice versa. But I mean, season 4, Rainwater did dick. He was just useless, and it sucks. You know, I want him to be a better character, and they're already punking this guy out. They gave him put him in this place at the speech where she says it's slave rules for you, and he didn't say shit. Now she does it again. He doesn't say anything, and then she leaves the room, and he's like, oh, we got to watch out for her. And it's like, okay, so cool. All right, so then we get back to we cut. So this is all in response. That scene and this scene is response to John's press conference and the executive order. And we see Sarah, and she's talking. Caroline is giving sort of marching orders to everyone in the boardroom. Find anything you can to stop this or whatever. And then Sarah calls. She does the thing that I mentioned this in the last episode. She calls out Jamie because she's watching the press conference, and Jamie's next to John. He's like, he does the notary stamp on John's executive order during the press conference. And Sarah takes one look at him, and she's like, oh, who's that? He doesn't look up to the fight. And it's just so stupid. They did it again, where the same thing where Ellis saw Jamie on the at the acceptance speech that John was giving when he won the governorship. Just immediately it was like pointing out the obvious, like, oh, he doesn't look happy. That's the governor's son. It should be the happiest day of his life. And it's so on the nose, and I just don't like it. And then Sarah makes another stupid line about making money because Caroline's mad, and it's whatever, lame. So then we get back to the ranch, and we see the cowboys. They're herding up the cattle, and Carter is with them now. And it was nice to see Carter actually kind of actually getting to work. We see him being a cowboy, and when you think everything's going good, he goes to rustle up one of the cows who's like leading or going astray, and the horse that he's on, which is John's horse, gets its feet stuck in a gopher hole, I guess, and it just goes fucking ass over tea kettle, and he falls into the ground, and the horse is all jacked up. And it was a sad scene for multiple reasons. One, Carter was doing something good, and he was happy. Lloyd was giving him props, and then they show Rip watching from a distance, and Rip's got the littlest of smiles where he's kind of proud of what Carter's doing. And then boom, that accident happens. We see Carter, he's got a broken arm. Rip gets off, pulls his rifle. I guess the horse shattered both of its front legs. Says it'll never heal. Boom, he's got to kill it right there in front of everybody, and he does it like Rip is just, he's just all business. He's like, well, it ain't gonna live. Boom, he just kills it. And it was emotional because the actor who plays Carter, he has a good cry face. Like he knows how to portray sadness on his face. He looked really sad. He was really shocked by everything that was happening. Everything happened so quick. He went from, just total happy, everything's going great, to boom, now he's got a broken arm, or at least it looks like a broken arm. The horse he was on is dead. Rip's pissed off, and he tells him to take the saddle off the dead horse and carry it back to the ranch. It was just kind of an up and down quick scene, but it was pretty good. I liked it. So then we get another badass Beth scene. Gotta get at least 2 of these on each episode. This shit was fucking comical though. So Beth is meeting John at this bar / restaurant or whatever to meet with the commissioners. They're talking to John has a strategy plan here, whatever. We'll get into that. So Beth's at the bar waiting for this meeting, and then this guy comes up and hits on her. Big fucking mistake. The way he hit on her was kind of like, oh God, it's kind of dorky, whatever. And it was so stupid because they did the full-on Sherlock Holmes, like the Robert Downey Jr., where she just took, like, literally, she went like this, looked at him, went like one down, up, and then she does like a 90-second to 2-minute just soliloquy of this guy's total life. And it's like, you were this, married, blah, 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 kids, and blah, and just like very specific details about this man's life. And you can tell that everything she's saying is 100% true because the guy is just like astonished by, oh God, how did you know? And then then he turns into a dick and says something like, fuck you or whatever. And then she's like, no, if you're not with your little dick or some stupid shit. The whole scene's fucking cringe. It's so cringe. Once again, it's the same shit. How do we make her look awesome? Do it. That's what the writers and the directors are doing with this show, with this character. That's all it is. And it's lame. All right, so then we move on to the meeting, and John is asking these guys to deny the airport's request to rezone the land. So it was going back to the conversation that in the John's office when Beth said agricultural land, blah, blah, blah. And so now these guys are, they're kind of pushing back a little bit. Then John, he says something that, to me, I thought the back and forth was kind of like, it was okay. It's like political speak or whatever. But then John gives his word that they're going to be reelected. And then he also says that he's going to turn all of the land into, or put it under a conservation reserve. And the thing that I thought was kind of cool was Beth didn't even know he was going to say that because she looked totally surprised. He gets up. They're like, oh, why don't you say so? They shake hands. You got our votes. They walk out. And then Beth is like, what are you doing? Like this is a situation where if this doesn't pan out, they could actually lose all of the land. So to me, I thought that was a pretty good twist. It actually put some stakes on, like, in the game here. Like, I actually feel like, okay, this is sort of he's playing with fire here. He could win it all or he could lose it all. Kind of like it. It's kind of a Dutton thing to do for John. I'm cool with it. It was good. I thought it was a pretty decent, I thought it was a decent layer to add to a very just bland episode. This episode to me was very boring. All right, so then John heads back to the ranch and he meets up with Rip, and then Rip gives him the lowdown on what happened to his horse. He's very apologetic, says it's his fault, and then John reassures him, says it's all good, gives him a pat on the shoulder. not too bad of a scene. So then we cut to Colby and Ryan, two of the cowboys, the Yellowstone cowboys. It's nighttime. They're sitting on a hillside. They got rifles, and they're looking through FLIR scopes. And it's cool because we get to see like what they see, and we can see that they're monitoring the dead cow they left in the pasture, and then you see two wolves come trotting up. So then they kill them, and then they go down to, and like I said, the whole scene was kind of neat. I don't know, I like that type of shit. So I thought it was cool, but they go down to get the wolves, and they realize that these wolves have these GPS collars on them. So apparently they are from some nearby conservation, some land or some whatever close by, and they wandered onto their land or whatever, and it's a big fucking deal. Like, Ryan is losing his shit over it. He's like, we're going to go to prison. This is a 10-year sentence. And he intimates like these wolves are like, they have Facebook pages. People wear their faces on their shirts, and these wolves are like celebrities, you know, because they're monitored or whatever in that way. So it was kind of okay. I don't know. To me, I'm sure that is a real thing. I'm sure that I'm sorry, let me say, I'm sure it could be a real thing, and this could have these sort of real repercussions, but to me, I was like, okay, all right, whatever. All right, so then we get to the next scene, which is a flashback. So this one kind of takes a moment to unravel, so bear with me here. So it's a flashback of young John, and him and his troop, his cowboys, and young Lloyd is there too, and they come across some dead livestock, and what they find is that the water has been poisoned. They were drinking out of this poison like little creek or some shit. So then John takes off, you know, there's like, let's go. And then we cut to John in a helicopter, young John still the flashback. He's in a helicopter. He lands right next to a construction site. He walks right up to the foreman, decks the guy, pulls a badge, pulls a gun, tells everyone to back up. And basically we learn that the foreman is telling him that there's some pesticides that that I forgot who it was. It was like they're FDA approved or some shit like that. And they're there to put up a cell tower. And they're putting this weed killer down because I guess it is fucking, I don't know. I guess the weeds are in the way. I don't know. Like, I didn't really understand that, but whatever. Okay. So then we cut to, I'm sorry. Before John leaves, he gets a card from the guy, and it says Dick Weller Construction. And he knows it because he looks at it and he's like, of course it is, or some shit like that. So then he leaves. So then we cut, and we're still in the flashback, and it's nighttime, and they're about, it's Lloyd, young Rip, and some other guys. They steal the pesticides, and then they start crashing the heavy equipment. And then we cut to the foreman asleep in his bed. He's waking up, and his house looks like it's raining. And then he walks out, and there's men in like these like hazmat suits, because you can't see their faces or anything, and they're spraying his entire house down, and in one side of it, and there's trees and stuff with this pesticide. And then someone steps out, clocks him in the face, and then cut to the morning, still in the flashback. Foreman wakes up. He's got like his like face and his skin's all like jacked up and like rashing and stuff, and it looks, you know, he reacts as though it's burning him. And they show some dead birds, and the tree is just dead or whatever. So it's like they're spraying it down with like some like serious, you know, weed be gone, whatever it is. Obviously it was some serious shit. So then he runs into the house and gets into the shower, and then that's it. So then we get back to current times, and we see that Rip is being informed from Ryan and Colby about the collars, the GPS collars that they found. He gives them shit. And he's like, how come you didn't see them? And he's like, because we were shooting through FLIR scopes. So, and obviously, you know, and if you don't know, FLIR scope is like night vision, but it's the heat is bright white. It's not like the green that you usually see with night vision. I think that's called like INRV or something like that, but it's a different type of night vision. It's actually really cool. And those scopes are really expensive. And so then he learns about this. He's all pissed off. And then they're like, okay, he has a plan. So they till up the ground. They get rid of the cow. And they get rid of the cow, and then they till the land that the cow was, the dead cow, the mutilated cow was on. They till it all up so it looks like it's being like for crops or whatever. And then they take the collars. They go up way up in the mountains or whatever, and they tie the collars to these pieces of like bark or like small pieces of wood, and they throw them in the river. And then that's it. They kind of, that's their end of the bit. And then The episode ends where we see the collars are floating down the river, and then they get caught in like this debris. There's like a debris stacked up on one side of the river with like logs and trees and bushes and shit, and the GPS gets caught in it, and that's it. Roll credits. So I mean, okay, to me this episode was meh. It wasn't that great. The political stuff, it's not that bad. Some of it feels good, like it's like, okay, we're getting somewhere. Like, let's go all the way in on the political stuff, or let's not. But let's just. I wish they would just dedicate to something and really dive into it and research and show that these characters know what they're talking about. But it never really adds up to much. It just feels like they're learning things and they're saying things to move the show along. And there's some action in there in between, but a lot of it's just sort of. It's like not a big deal. So, and just the whole thing with the agricultural thing, it was like, why is it no one knew that? I mean, obviously Jamie knew, but no one else knew that. And when Beth read it, it was like, it was brand new evidence that was submitted. So it's just lame. Like I said, like before, I like Linnell. She knows her shit. She's a good advisor to John. I really hope she sticks around in the show, because she said she's only there for a month and then she's heading off to Washington. So, but, I just, for the show's sake, I really hope she sticks around for the entire season, because she's really good. The Jamie-Beth dynamic is just so tired. It's the same shit over and over. He's there to make her look strong. She's there to make him look weak. It's just, and it's so funny because how I can, like, when I watch this show and I'm like, and I say the things that I'm talking about with Beth, one of the points that I think that I can make that proves what I'm saying is somewhat true, is at least to some degree, is that you never see Beth and Casey on the same fucking screen together. Never. Casey is a veteran. He's a fucking badass. He can handle his shit. He doesn't take any shit. He's very, I don't want to say he's very smart. He's not like super intelligent, but he's a smart guy. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's sort of the white hat, and Beth would not be able to dominate his character in any way. And if you think about it, they're never on the fucking screen together, ever. They have zero interaction. They reference each other, talking to John or talking to Jamie or somebody else, but they're never talking to one another. They're never solving a problem together. And it's almost like they want to keep Beth away from him as a character, because he might steal some of her thunder or some shit. It's just, it's so obvious. To me, it's obvious. Maybe it's not to anybody else. Maybe I'm just, maybe I'm nitpicking here, but I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, they don't ever talk to each other. They don't even know each other, and they're brother and sister. They reference each other, but that's it. So, but anyways, the rest of it, the bar scene was stupid. The wolf storyline, I think it seems kind of lame right now, but let's see where it goes, because when the wolf situation popped off in the storyline, then we cut to that flashback with the pesticides at the farm in the cell tower. I'm pretty sure that this whole Dick Weller construction, this is coming back. Like, this is some sort of character that we've never seen before that's going to come storming back into the show and causing problems for John. That's fine. That's okay. Let's see where it goes. Like I said, I'm not saying this storyline is trash yet, but it just seemed a little obvious to me, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. Overall, I just think it's just samey. This is just a samey episode, just another Yellowstone episode. Nothing big happened, nothing crazy. A lot of cringe dialogue. The storylines overall is just decent. So, and if you're liking it, like I said, I'm not here to convince anyone that the show is bad. I'm not trying to convince you or that you made a wrong decision for watching it, or that you don't know what you're doing because you like it. No. That's not what I'm doing here. This is just my opinions, just my thoughts. If you love the show, continue loving it. I'm just glad you stopped by. And speaking of, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you for taking the time. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.